Welcome to Sidebar, where you vote on the internet's biggest buttholes. Am I the butthole for not wanting my parents to adopt another teenage girl? 15F live with my parents, mid-40s and my brother, 9M. It's always been a dream of my parents to adopt. Me and bro are bio kids and they had come to the decision that they want to adopt an older kid. They got matched with Jess, who is 13. Due to the current situation, she is not living with us, but we met before and she spent a weekend with us in January. Jess, despite sometimes being sweet and kind, is very high maintenance and has a lot of anxiety and anger problems. She can go from 0-1,000 really quick. During her stay, she got triggered by something when we were in public. She and I went to a clothes shop and my parents were in a cafe nearby. Some guy accidentally grabbed her by her shoulder as he thought she was his daughter, and he apologized immediately and started screaming. I was the only person there, and I tried to calm her down, but she ran off. She was found, shaken, but safe an hour later. I then got grounded as I had failed in being responsible for my sister. I said I didn't have a sister. My parents were angry about this and said that how dare I be rude about her. Don't I know how much she's been through? She's had other outbursts, but none so huge in public. She can be cold and untrusting and was very clingy to my parents. I do admire her and think she's very brave, but I don't want to live with her. My parents call Jess often. I often say hi and try to be civil and supportive, but it seems like the only thing my parents can talk about is Jess and how brave she is, and she isn't even here yet. We live in a 3-bedroom house and my parents promised to move to a bigger one later this year. Recently, my parents broke the news to me that Jess will move into my room, and I can pick whether I want to share a room with bro or Jess. I don't want to share with either. My brother is messy, loud, and is your average 9-year-old boy, and Jess has night terrors and screams the house down, and it's enough having to open my house to her. But I value my privacy a lot and don't want her in my room, which is like my special place. I was crushed. I asked if we were still moving, and my parents were like, "We like this place and have no solid plan." I freaked out and was like, "You guys are forgetting you have another daughter and are too excited about the shiny new one to remember that the one you have has feelings and boundaries. And if you're changing everything I've ever known, at least I deserve to be listened to. If this is how life's going to be, I don't want to have a sister. Good to note, my room is big enough to have a wall put in, and my parents considered it a few years back. I would be happy with that. They refuse, even though we can easily afford it, because it is too much effort. My parents are offended that I'm not being welcoming towards my sister, and I'm offended that the life I knew is going to be turned upside down, and I'm not going to have the thing I value most, my privacy. Am I the butthole? Is OP a butthole? Here is what Reddit thinks. Not the butthole. I bet your parents think that taking in Jess is such a kind thing to do. They can't possibly be wrong and everyone needs to just get on board. However, you are a person and your feelings also matter. They are being really heavy-handed and not making any effort to make you comfortable. Can you ask them to attend family counseling before Jess arrives? If they refuse, do you have access to a social worker or someone as part of this process that you could talk to? Hearing from an independent professional that they need to consider your feelings might help them understand. Am I the butthole for moving out and taking everything? Background. I, Thirdeth, lived with a longtime friend. Thirdem, we lived together for 6 years and known each other for 20 years. Close families. He was very accepting that I came with a cat. I paid for everything and legally owned her. He adored her though and would spend hours cuddling her. I owned everything, all the furniture and the white goods, because I had lived out of home before but he had not. He got a GF at the 3-5 year mark and she practically moved in immediately. I still paid half the rent though. She was always very rude to me and clearly didn't want me alone with my friend. There was only one lounge attached to the kitchen, so he and I would previously watch TV together or just be in the same room while another cooked, worked, etc. When she moved in, that had to stop because I was interfering with their couple time. Her attitude towards me got worse over time and my friends started treating me badly. They would leave sex toys all over the place, watch movies late and loud when my bedroom was right there, glare at me if I cooked during their couple time even though they hogged the TV between 4-9 of them. I got a BF and started spending a lot of time with him. After this, things got worse. My friend began locking my cat in small cages and putting her in the shower. He also began talking differently to me and leave the kitchen in an absolute mess. Mold to make it difficult for me to cook. I found used condoms in the lounge. It then got to the stage where we wouldn't talk but all the tormenting was still going on. I decided to leave and started looking for somewhere else. The lease was up in 4 months but we had not discussed what we wanted to do. I found out through his sister and a close friend of mine that they had been saving up this whole time to move out and would be moving in a few weeks. This was news to me. I couldn't afford the rent by myself. I found a place before they did, spoke to the estate agent and advised them of the situation. Turns out he had not been paying his full share of the rent and she was not listed as living there. The agent did not hold me accountable for any of it. I paid 4 weeks leave before I left. I didn't tell them when I was leaving, and on a day when they were not home, my friends helped me pack up and leave. The house was clean, spotless. I also took all of my furniture, white goods and kitchenware, so basically everything but his room. I took my cat. After I left, I received hundreds of missed calls and messages from them abusing me for not notifying them and taking everything and my cat. Most of his family also messaged me telling me what an butthole I am. My parents knew what I was doing, supported me, but have also called me an butthole because our families are still not exactly on speaking terms. Is the poster a butthole or not? Reddit says, not the butthole. Lol. I do love the nuclear option of moving out from shitty roommates. Your assets are yours, not his. Take all that is yours and leave him to his sex toy-infested display area to enjoy. You've done more than most would do in this situation and made it right by the landlord. Move on and enjoy your stress-free life with Kitty Cat. Am I the butthole for telling my sibs I sold our childhood home when I did, just to get them out? Okay, so I'm the youngest of 5 and this mess only revolves around me, F29, my just older sis, F31, and our older bro, M36. 2 older sisters aren't part of this, thankfully. Okay, so I currently live with my GF. What was my grandma's home? But I bought said home from mom a bit back for cheap. The house was pristine and I've sunk a few thousand into it already and it's looking better. Well, my mom lived in our childhood home with 31Y/O sis and bro for the last forever. 2 oldest sisters live in diff states. YS and bro never moved out for longer than a year each before moving back. Both are absolute slobs who refuse to clean up after themselves, and they made our mom clean up after them. She couldn't stand mess and would clean just so she wouldn't have to live in filth. Eventually she, in her 60s, couldn't stand to live there anymore, so I asked her to come live with me. They essentially drove our mother out of her own home because they were slobs. Well, she lived with me happily. My house is clean and she didn't have to work and just enjoyed her time in the garden, but she passed away not too long ago. I've barely been coping because out of all of my siblings I was closest with our mom. Our personalities just mesh well, whereas my siblings did. She loved them. She wouldn't have cared for them for so long if she didn't, but they stressed her out unbelievably. Well, I found out our mom left her house to me only. She left each of my sibs some money, but the house and everything of hers in it is now mine. My sibs who live in that house didn't like it and pitched a fit. Said I manipulated mom at her weakest into getting the house when they should have gotten it. I told them to go to heck, and the only reason it probably got left to me is because mom knew I'd at least remember to pay the property tax each year so the house wouldn't get taken. Neither of them pay any bills, save for their phone bills. So she probs doubted they'd keep the house long if she gave it to them. Well, they expected me to follow in mom's footsteps and pay all the bills there for them. I laughed and told them that going forward they'd be paying rent and all utilities if they wanted to stay there, and they'd need to keep the place clean or they were OUT. They flipped their crap and screamed that it was their childhood home, and I couldn't do this. I said the deed is in my name, so I very much can. I sent them a letter that basically said they can either pay rent or they'd be out. They refused, so I sent them another letter saying they had 30 days to vacate the premises because I'd sold the house. They went apeshit, but they didn't have a leg to stand on, so they bailed. I've since cleaned up the place. It looked like a drug den and cost a lot to deep clean and fix stuff, and I'm renting it out to a nice Asian couple who have lots of exotic fish. Told some friends I lied about selling the house, and they said it was a butthole move. Am I the butthole? Is the poster a butthole or not? Reddit says, not the butthole. Your mom probably left you the property because she knew you would take care of it, not just pay the bills, especially after seeing you fix up your grandma's house. Also, I misread the line about the new renters. I really couldn't figure out why you knew that your renters had lots of exotic fetishes. Finally, here's our headline story of the day. Am I the butthole for telling my husband that his culture is garbage and I won't compromise by incorporating it into our family life? My husband and I live in the US Northeast, where I am from. John moved here for work several years ago, from the deep south of the US where he grew up, raised with Christian holidays but never attending church. Coincidentally, shortly before everything hit, John's parents and his childhood best friend Dan and his wife decided to move here as well. This past weekend was the first that us 3 couples have gathered together since any of us moved here. We had a distance picnic at our house. John sat down 2-3 minutes after I did. as he was settling our kid into his pen in the yard with us. Dan and my FIL immediately started to jokingly rip on him for being whipped and doing my job of parenting our child while he was supposed to be allowed to just catch up with the two other men. I was trying to politely deflect when it turned to how mean I was for not fixing him a plate and serving him before serving myself, if I thought a certain dish would run out before he got to it, or if he had asked me to. I of course would have. Dan and FIL continued to brag about how their families do it right, where they handle the outside chores while their wives handle the inside chores, including the care of Dan and his wife's two children. I think it's important to note here that both currently live in rented condos that by their nature do not have outdoor chores, and both their wives have always worked full-time. As I do. The whole day was kind of wrecked by that start, and I was frustrated when John left with Dan and FIL to go for a walk and left me to do all the cleanup alone while also looking after our kid. I expected John to apologize when he returned hours later, but instead he got at me for making him look bad in front of his friend and dad. He brought up how a traditional division of labor is a huge part of Southern culture, and how I was being disrespectful to his background by forcing Northern culture onto him and his family. He said he's been building up a lot of resentment the past few months that I make him do half the chores and childcare, since in his culture, women do the chores and hands-on childcare, and men do the fun parenting, the discipline, mow the grass, and bring in the cars for oil changes when needed. I was stunned but honest and told him Southern culture is garbage. It's bigotry. I lived in John's home state for 8 years, and I saw how Southern hospitality is reserved only for those in your group. Deviate from the norm, be queer, non-Christian, a POC, a liberal, a non-traditional woman, and they turn on you viciously. Does every single person act like that always? No, but it's the culture. John is livid and says his culture is just as valid as that of other global regions, religions, and ethnic groups. So I am the bigot by not compromising with him here and incorporating aspects of his culture into our family life the way I would if his culture was Islamic or Asian or whatnot. Is OP a butthole? Here is what Reddit thinks. Not the butthole. Fuck that. John better knock that sexist shit off, or he'll be a single father soon. Now it's your time to vote on the buttholeness of the headline story. Is the poster a butthole? Let us hear your thoughts. Go to the pinned comment under this video. Please hit the thumbs up on the reply of YDA. You are the butthole if you think the OP could have been nicer. Or press thumbs up on the reply saying NTA. Not the butthole if you are on the same side as OP. Feel free to leave your opinion and reason why you voted for the option you did in the comments section. And join the discussion. For more buttholes, subscribe to Sidebar.